Hey guys, so I checked the forecast and tonight we're in for some pretty severe weather. Tomorrow morning we're going to be having wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour. That's not good for the garden, but you know what? I'm doing some prep work that might keep them safe. So let's go take a look. We're going to see how well I did here. So let's enter the garden. I can't wait to show you all this garden tour next week. Today's actually Thursday, and I usually film on Saturdays for the garden tour, so y'all are getting a little early peek. So here with my tomatillos, I know they actually sway around quite a bit in the breeze, and I love these guys. I don't want them to break with heavy winds. So what I actually did, previously they were just staked with some little bamboo shoot stakes. But what I did was I got these, it's like a tomato cage. I think it's called the Ultimato cage. And this is actually 2.5 packets of the Ultimato cage that generally it's made to have 3 stakes that you hook together with these clips. And what I did was instead of making a little triangle cage that you could see on the front garden where I have my tomatoes, I made 8 across and then 8 across, and then I attach them in the middle. So I'm hoping that, and then I also put some jute string for extra support. I'm hoping that this will kind of help cushion the tomatillos if we get really heavy winds. I do think that if we have some hail, I'll probably run out here and put some burlap on top just to kind of cover them. But I mean, it's not going to be a strong material that way if the winds are so strong. I'd rather the burlap just fly off than it be a strong material that's going to completely lift the whole little tomatillo cage off. So that's what I'm doing for my tomatillos. I really don't want these guys to get hurt in the wind. I didn't brace this side quite as much because most of the time our wind blows this way, so I feel like they're going to hit the other side a little more, and that way they can still have a little bit of room to grow without touching anything. Because I notice anywhere where they're gonna like lean on a string or on a bar, it's going to chafe on the plant a little bit. So I want to keep it as open as possible. I'm putting more support on the north end because most of our wind comes from the south. So that's what I'm doing here. I do plan on just leaving these cages up. I think it's a good idea to support your tomatillos anyway. I didn't know whether or not I was going to support them going into the season, but seeing that they're growing so quickly, I think that it's a good idea just to offer them a little support. I don't want to risk them breaking, knowing the investment that we've put into them with our time and caring about these guys so much. My ground cherries, I put these little wooden sticks into the ground to kind of help cushion them if the wind blows really strong. Now when you stake your plants, I don't actually put the stick touching the plant. You can actually see it's probably 2.5 inches away from the plant in any spot that I've staked, and I've put 3 stakes around this plant. And the reason you do that is because you don't want to make unnecessary contact with your plant. It's going to stress your plant out and chafe, and your plant will start getting little scabs where it can cause infection on your plant, anywhere where that stick is going to rub on your plant. So I just put it a little bit away. If it gets really windy, these sticks will help kind of catch it from snapping, and it will give it just a little bit of pushback with the wind and give it just a little bit of something to lean on if it really gets that windy. But that being said, I want these to be like almost like a seat belt, but they don't need to be like strapped. You know, like if you're in the car, you're not going to tighten your seatbelt really tight. It's going to hurt you. You just want something that's on, that's going to help these plants, that is almost just like a precaution. And then I also went ahead and pruned my squash just a little bit. I still need to do the bed back there. I noticed that these were getting just way big, way quick, and it was choking out some of the corn, and it was growing over my marigolds. And then over there I also want to cut back just so there's a lot more airflow, and so that the beneficial pollinators like the bees can actually see the flowers, because I know a lot of times they're attracted to that yellow color. And if you have too much foliage, like because I planted these a little bit too close together, the pollinators aren't really going to be able to do as good a job making your fruit because they're gonna have to fight through all those leaves just to get to the flowers to pollinate. So my corn, I went ahead and put more of these tomato stakes in the four corners around my corn, and then I took some jute string right here, and I kind of made like a checkerboard across all of my corn. So each ear, each stalk of corn has its own protective square. So if it gets really windy, I'm hoping that these will help kind of catch it a little bit and help these stay in their little pods. We'll see, because we do get a lot of wind, but we haven't had extreme wind lately, and I can already see the corn is leaning a little bit more to the north because of the wind that we've been getting. So I'm going to hope for the best. As this corn grows, I'm going to add more layers of jute string up, and then I just have one band running across the top right here. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm probably going to support these guys just a little more. This was the one that broke in half, and as you can see, he's still hanging in there. Overall, his foliage looks healthy, but if you look at the bottom where he snapped, it looks like his stem is rotting. But I'm just going to go ahead and let him hang in there. I noticed he did have a bunch of flowers, and all of the flowers are just kind of crisping off. I think he's taking, I might just pinch him off so he's not putting energy into flowers, and that way he can put a little bit more energy into growth. I'm actually going to do that right now. There you go. So that's a cluster of what could have been flowers, but I want that plant to try to heal before he tries to make a tomato. But otherwise, like, I'm actually really happy with him. I kind of am a little hopeful that he's gonna make it, but I'm cautious. His roots, not his roots, the base of his stalk does look a little painful. In this garden, I did go ahead and reinforce a lot of things because the last windstorm we had last week broke this eggplant a little bit. It didn't completely snap the stalk, but he lost about half of his stalk. At the very base, he blew over and he got a little injury at the bottom. So I noticed that this week, that one had been the biggest eggplant this whole time, and these three have caught and surpassed him in size. And I think he's just been slowing down because he was injured. So we'll see. He's still putting off new growth, so I'm hopeful, but you can see I have a bunch of little sticks around him, and I went ahead and stuck sticks near all of my other eggplants so they don't get hurt in this windstorm we're getting. I did the same thing with my jalapenos. They have sticks, and just a reminder, the sticks are not touching the jalapeno plant and the main stalk because that's gonna hurt your jalapenos. And then I did the same thing over here, just throughout the garden, trying to stake anything that I thought would fall. I'm gonna go and prune those in just a minute. So hopefully by Sunday, when y'all are watching my week, is it 6 or 7? Whenever you're watching the next week's garden tour, these are gonna look a lot different. I stuck a little stake for my okra because he is not protected by the wind very much at all. And guys, I have to show y'all something that I found yesterday. That, my friends, is my very first ever tomato growing in the garden, and this is from my Blue Beauty beefsteak tomato. Anywhere where the sun hits this tomato as it develops, it's going to ripen to red, but wherever it gets sun exposure, it's going to actually change to like a bluish purpley black color. That's what's really cool about the blue beefsteak tomato. And if you look really closely, you can actually see that it already has some bluish coloring on it. I thought that was pretty neat. I didn't think it would start off that early. On a couple of my other tomatoes, right behind him, we have some more little tomatoes. I think we have this one, and then that one is just starting to put a little tomato out, and I think there's more over here. And then right as I was talking right now, I spotted on this plant even more tomatoes. That just makes me so excited, you guys. First time ever gardening. This is my first fruit that I'm seeing in the garden. And so it's really cool. Most everything that I've planted this year, I started from seed in a greenhouse and transplanted out into the garden. So it really feels like I've been along this whole process from seed to fruit, and it's an incredible feeling. You can already see the wind starting to pick up. Overnight it's gonna get even worse. So I'm really hoping we don't get too much damage. Y'all will see in the next garden tour what ended up happening if we have any losses. But at the moment, this is the garden. I'm excited. This is a new Bolero marigold. Looks really gorgeous. On this plant, this was the first marigold that bloomed, and it is starting to fade to a light orange and then a new one opening. It's so neat how it blooms as just a really deep, rich burgundy, and as it ages, it lightens out to almost yellow. I might save some seed from these marigolds, but for the most part, I'm going to deadhead them throughout the season, which means I'm just gonna, as it starts to dry out, I'm gonna snip the flower off, and that's going to promote more flower growth in those plants. But you can see this one has several blossoms that are starting to form little buds. It does have a lot of sun damage, but it's growing really well, and it doesn't seem to be too affected by the sun. So that's it. I can't wait to see if everything makes it through the night. I'm a little nervous, but I just gotta know that I prepared the best I could and see what happens. All right, you guys, as always, I hope that whatever y'all are doing, whatever hobbies y'all have just the most success and enjoyment from those things. And let me know if y'all have any questions. I'll try to update y'all with what happens after this crazy windstorm we're about to get. We're actually not expecting very much rain. We have about a 25% chance of rain. But out here in western Texas, really the only things that, not only, but the biggest threats to gardeners is the high heat. It's a very dry heat, and the high winds. We get a ton of wind. But all right, well, y'all have a good night. I can't wait to see you guys on the video that's going to come up this weekend. Next Sunday, I'll be uploading garden tours every Sunday throughout this growing season. So you guys enjoy and have a good week, and I'll see y'all this weekend. Happy gardening and good night.